all come together and celebrate what will be the 20th anniversary of the GEOINT Symposium. That's, for me, amazing because I remember when they came up with the idea. It's like, I don't know. So, good morning. I know it's a bit early for a few of you. Saw some sleepy eyes. Where's Eddie? We've got plenty of coffee and plenty of food to nourish you and get your blood pressure up and pumping for this morning's event. We'll be together for about 2 hours. Welcome to the return to GEOINT Sneak Peek. Thank you to Carousel and my friend and colleague Lacey Lee, the director at Carousel, for sponsoring this event and that yummy breakfast. Raise your hand if you like the breakfast. I did. All right, and welcome to Robert Perry. Robert, where are you? Robert, longtime NGA colleague, is one of our newest employees here at GIF, and he gives me the words I'm supposed to say, and watch his face quickly because as I walk away from the podium, it's sort of a jump ball what I'm going to say. All right, so today is exactly 26 days until we kick off the 8 a.m. breakfast, just like here, at GEOINT Forward on Sunday, May 21st? Yes. And we have a wonderful program for you. So what we're going to do today is preview what we think are some of the most awesome, relevant things for you. Honestly, everything is awesome. This year, I might hazard a guess to say is the most fun, impactful, and meaningful program that we've put together over a 4-day period. So we're going to need some crowd participation from you today, and you'll need 3 things, right? You already had the first thing, hands, right? You need a pen. So if you don't have one, make friends with your neighbors now because there'll be some writing, and you'll need a device that's connected to the internet at the end. All right? Are we all on board? All right. So let's see. Raise your hand if you are registered to go to the GEOINT Symposium. All right. Keep your hands up. Registered. Look at that, Alex. Raise your hand if you're. Keep your hand up if you're going to register to for the GEOINT Symposium. All right. Okay. Raise your hand, and it's fair to look around if you're up front. If this will be your first GEOINT Symposium. Oh, newbies, thank you. Yes. If you look at our brochure, we have this fancy new brochure this year. Thank you, Team USGIF. Over the last 2 years, we took about a 1.5 year break during COVID from the GEOINT Symposium. We saw a large influx of new people to our GEOINT Symposium. And we are happy to welcome you, and we are super happy to welcome back our more tenured participants. So raise your hand if you've been to 5 GEOINT Symposiums. All right, 10, 15. Wow, all of them. Just kidding, you win. All right, so we got through the first part of audience participation. One small detail that we've covered for you is this guide. So if you need one, there's some at the front door. Christy has a pile of them here. This is a great way to decipher what's going on. We also have an amazing app. So depending on your medium for how you want to interact, I would say take a look at this. And look at the lineup of keynote speakers. Because Christy Monaco, our VP of Programs, has really outdone herself putting together not only an amazing lineup of speakers on the main stage, but throughout all of the hubs and throughout all of the speaking areas. Look at Wednesday. Let's see. It's one of my favorite days. Often by Wednesday, we're tired, right? But good news for you. There will be a nice, cool air-conditioned place to sit and relax for several hours. You look at the main stage, looks like this, main stage agenda, and you go to Wednesday morning, get your pen ready. This is the next part. We have what I'm calling the Fab Four of GEOINT speakers. We have Director Haynes, D&I. We have the Honorable John Sherman, the CIO of DOD, who, right, was part of us, homegrown from NGA, imagery analyst. And then we have the Director of DIA. That's where your pen comes in, Scotty Barrier, Director of DIA. And then we have the Director of USGS, David Applegate. So, wow, that to me is a pretty darn amazing morning lineup. And it's not over at that point. We still have Innovation Hub, YPG Hub, and the Government Hub. And we'll be wrapping it up with it, which is always the most fun finale, the opposition panel that will be led by Ms. Tanya Wilkerson and a few of our other NGA colleagues. Alex may be speaking about that in a little bit. So keep a lookout for that. There will also be hours and hours of training, maybe more than 50 hours of training. All right, so let's see what else. Panels. One of my favorite panels that we'll be having is the GEOINT at 20 panel on the first morning. So we'll be featuring the former CEOs of USGIF, Stu Shea, Keith Masbach, the current CEO, whoever she is, and a budding leader that to me symbolizes the leadership of the future. So mark that down on your calendar and be sure not to miss it. And then the exhibit hall, right? So there's a big area here. Let's see. Wow, our exhibit hall has been sold out for months. That's a credit to you, your organizations, to the USGIF team, to Carousel, who leads the largest pavilion in there. Don't miss it. And I circled, you should circle this one too, all the way up here in the corner. That's the USGIF booth. So make sure that you take the time to come and get your USGIF swag so you can show your pride of USGIF and talk to our team. All right, so we've talked about learning, listening, participating, the exhibit hall floor. We also like to have a lot of fun. So you'll see there's an area for networking. We are going to kick off our symposium this year with what I think will be the best welcome celebration ever on Sunday night. So you and 4,000 of your closest friends are invited to join us at the Armory STL. It's brand new, right? We're not talking about going to the Arsenal down on 2nd Street. We are talking about a brand new, how big is that? I can't think of the square feet. It's
250,000.
250,000 square foot facility. Thank you, Robert. Where there's tons of area to network and interact and games. So there's giant size games. There's a Jenga, there's like a Connect 4. There's a thing that we're calling foot billiards, which you have to see it to believe it. And if you think that like walking down the stairs from the top level to the bottom level might be too slow for you, you can actually go down in the sliding board. So, but you have to be careful not to slosh your drink when you go down it. So join us for that. Lots of networking, smaller events, Monday afternoon on the exhibit floor and throughout town. And then Tuesday afternoon, our young professionals will have their special networking event in the afternoon at the T-Rex. You're all invited. They even let me go. So, you know, everybody can attend. Following that, we partnered with Greater St. Louis and several other organizational members to host a party on Keener Plaza. And that is an outdoor plaza with the arch overlooking in between the convention center and the ballpark. And there's a handy dandy map, can I show this? That will help you to navigate the city. That's an insert with your brochures that you have today. Don't miss that, that'll be fun. We'll be doing it either under the stars or under the tent or both, right? So rain or shine, we'll be having that event. All right, I'm almost there, ladies. Stand by. All right, so in sum, we feel like our symposium is going to be the center of the GEOINT metaverse for those 4 days. Next, crowd participation. Before you leave today, let's light up social media today. And we want you to talk a little bit about what you're excited about for the upcoming GEOINT symposium. Invite your friends and colleagues to join you. Maybe share an experience, just King, from one of your 19 or 20 GEOINTs that you've gone to. And then tag us, right? Hashtag GEOINT 2023, USGIF. Maybe you could even throw in best CEO ever. All right. So thank you for your kind patience, and we're so excited to have you here and to host you next month. It's now my honor and my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Lacey Bean, a director at CareSoft. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Perfect. We'll just trade off. That makes it easier. I'll try not to stand behind here because you probably won't be able to see me very well since I'm so short. Usually I have to have like a step stool when I'm behind these, but we'll make it work. So good morning, everyone. I'm super excited to be here, and really excited to sponsor this event. So thank you to Rhonda, Christy, and Miriam, and the whole USGIF team for pulling this together and organizing such a great event to get us all together. You said 26 days before the symposium, so we'll be here before you know it. But before I introduce today's speakers, I'm going to take just a minute to tell you about CareSoft and some of the things that we have going on during the symposium in a couple weeks. Most of you in this room probably already know, well, either me or CareSoft and have worked with us for quite a few years, but for those who don't, our focus is that we're really a government-centric reseller and aggregator focusing on selling various types of technology solutions to the government. So we work with hundreds of manufacturers to help resell their products to the defense and intelligence community, federal civilian agencies, and state and local government. And then we also work with the government agencies to help them acquire the technology they need in the easiest way possible. So with that, like I said, we're really excited for this year's symposium. We've got some great stuff lined up. We have our partner pavilion that you can see on the show floor map. We'll have over 50 of our partners either in that pavilion with booths. We have daily demos going on, lots of fun games and activities, and usually we do like a fun little passport map and a couple other things that we'll have there, some good giveaways as well. And then the thing that everyone probably cares about the most is we also throw a really great party that's happening on Tuesday night. So we have booked, it's the old St. Louis Postal Dispatch building, so it's now called the Post Building. It's a really awesome venue, probably about a 5 to 7 minute walk from the convention center. So we're going to have an awesome networking event there with lots of good food, some drinks, and I think I've heard there's a cigar rolling station, some live music with DJ or something along those lines. But it's a really awesome venue and worth checking out. They've got some of the old printing presses in there, and we're working on configuring that to make it a really awesome networking event that everyone's welcome to join. So you can find more details if you scan that QR code that's on the first page of your program today. It'll take you to our site that's continuously updated. That'll list all the details of where you can find that. We can also send you an invite, or you can stop by our booth and grab one at the beginning of the show. So we're excited to see you all there. With that, I'm excited to introduce today's speakers. So we have Mr. Mark Munsell. Mark is the Acting Director of Data and Digital Innovation Directorate at NGA, and was formerly the Chief Information Officer, CTO at NGA. And we also have Mr. Alex Berger, who is the Deputy Director of Office of Corporate Communications at NGA. So Mark and Alex, welcome.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Alex Berger, and I am in the Office of Corporate Communications, but more importantly, I've been at NGA for 12 years, working in analysis, working in human resources, and now in corporate communications. So I really appreciate USGIF for having us out to talk about how NGA will be present at the GEOINT Symposium this year. We have a great story to tell, and what you're going to see throughout the symposium are NGA people talking about what they do and where we're headed in the future. So what I want to really do, and I want to add, it's really special to have it in St. Louis, because St. Louis, as many of you know, is emerging as a geospatial hub, not just in the Midwest, but in the US. And so it's a great place to have it, and you're going to see showcased our future of NGA in St. Louis. So what I want to do is to talk about the different places that NGA will be at the symposium. I'm going to end with a little bit of a sneak peek as to what the director will speak about in his keynote, but really that's, I want to keep you on the edge of your seat until we get there. So many of you know the format. NGA is going to be on the main stage. This is a really tall podium, by the way. Stand on my tipping. So NGA is going to be on the main stage, of course. Todd Johannesson, who is our in our Foundation GEOINT group, is going to be giving a keynote during the GEOINT Forward Day. Many of you know that the roots of NGA and geospatial are in our maps, charts, and geodesy information. And so Todd will talk about where we are today and where we're headed in the future. We have Matt Clarick, who's going to talk from an NGA research perspective about generative AI. And I love the title. It's talking about my generative AI. I would go just to hear what they have to say about that. But I think many of you know that our future is not in collecting more pixels. Our future is in collecting more data and making sense of that data. And AI, machine learning, computer vision are all a part of that. And NGA research is really on the cutting edge of looking at what that looks like and then explaining it to all of you. We have a really great panel, and Vieta Williams, our Director for Human Development, is going to be on that, talking about neurodiversity in Team GEOINT. Many of you might be aware that NGA participated in a pilot program for the Director for National Intelligence, targeting people on the spectrum with neurodiversity challenges, specifically because they're great at GEOINT, because many of them have the ability to hyper-focus and see things that other analysts simply cannot see. So there was a really great CBS News special on it. If you haven't seen it, go Google it. But Vieta's going to talk about what that looked like during the pilot and what that looks like now for NGA. We have a panel, we're going to participate in the GEOINT at 20 panel, and that is a really interesting look back at where we've been, because I will tell you that the director is going to look at the next 20 years during his keynote of where we're headed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, and then Mark will as well. And then, in addition to Vice Admiral Whitworth, our director, speaking, giving a keynote, Tanya Wilkerson will be on the main stage talking about STEM and GEOINT and recruitment into the GEOINT field. So if you haven't met Tanya Wilkerson, she's amazing. She was recruited into the intelligence community in high school and has a really great story to tell about how that experience shaped her career, and now she is forwarding that to the young people who we need diversity, we need diversity of thought, we need diversity of experience, and she's really passionate about that topic. So that's the main stage on the Government Hub. Again, we have a number of really great speakers lined up. I'm not going to list them all, you can see them in the agenda, but more importantly, you're starting to see a picture of what NGA is going to talk about. We are moving beyond simply taking pictures from space or using pixels and remote sensing and getting into having to be more innovative, having to be more creative in how we make sense of all of the data, and even how we structure our collection so that we can collect the right pixels and not just gather up pixels. So on that note, Frank Avila, who is in our Source Commercial and Business Ops, is going to have a fireside chat, I think within our own, is that correct? And they're going to talk about commercial GEOINT, which I know is a topic of great interest to you all, and certainly to us. The commercial industry that has emerged over the past decade has radically changed the way that NGA operates. And we are still making sense of that. I just recently was out at the Space Symposium in Colorado, and again, it's a topic of a lot of discussion. because in some ways it creates new opportunities, and in other ways we have to evolve and change to deal with the deluge of data that's out there. Okay, there's a panel on bringing the metaverse to GEOINT, and I'm still getting my head around the metaverse, but we have Chris Johnson, the Deputy Chief Technology Officer, who's going to come and talk about our future there. And then there are two really great panels with a slew of NGA people, one on the future of GEOINT with machine learning and artificial intelligence, and another on acquisition. We're on the acquisition panel. Tanya Wilkerson is going to be on that panel. Tim Clayton, who's from our acquisition executive, Howard Pierce from the Office of Contracting, and our new director for the Small Business Office, Dia Goodman, is going to be on that. So that is a panel not to miss, because we're going to talk about, if you're from industry, how do you work with us? How do you engage with us? Where are we headed in the future? Which I know you're interested in knowing. And then we also have on the Government Hub, Mark Chatelain. He's our new Chief Information Officer, and Mark Mansell. I don't want to steal his thunder. He's going to talk about innovation and sort of where we're headed. In that space in between big long-term thinking from NGA research and what we're actually applying today. And then we are at the Young Professional Hub, and I've been to a couple of GEOINTs, not 20 or 19, but we have some really great speakers lined up there. Ian Zephyros is a brand new senior executive. He's in charge of our Human Capital Advanced Capabilities Office, and he's going to talk about navigating a nonlinear career at NGA. So what I've learned in my time at NGA is that it rarely does one start at the bottom of the ladder and work their way up to the top of the ladder. There are just so many opportunities at NGA to do different things, whether it's just being an imagery analyst or a geospatial analyst, all the way up to being one of those innovators and big thinkers who are creating new technology and tradecraft that is changing the way that we work. Dr. Nikki Markeel is going to speak about geodesy and the future of that. If you haven't been paying attention, other countries, specifically China, are investing heavily in geomatics, and Dr. Markeel has a really great talk about how important geomatics is to everything we do in national security, and even in commerce and other places, and how if we lose that advantage, we're going to regret it, and that's an area that people need to pay attention to. And then our deputy director will be on the Young Professional, at the Young Professional Hub doing the fireside chat, so she'll give a keynote address in the fireside. We are also participating in working groups, and that's something that we always enjoy because that is where the work of USGI gets done. So we're working closely with the St. Louis area working group, and Frank Cooper, who's the N2W program director, will be part of that discussion. The Tradecraft and Professional Development Working Group, Andy Hayden, who's the director of the NJ College. Commercial GEOINT Working Group, we have the Discovery and Assessment Office and Source, Riley J., who will be speaking. The Bridge Working Group, Sandra Ofter, who many of you know, will be there. She's now our director of NJ Denver, but has been at NJ her whole career and is really engaged in this JI. And then the Small Business Working Group, where you'll get to meet Dia close and personal. And then all of you will certainly come and visit us at the NJ booth. We have lightning talks, so there are 4 lightning talks talking about actual work that's being done at NGA and interesting new tradecraft. The industry engagement team will be at our booth. Small business office will hang out there if you want a one-on-one with Dia. Recruitment, we do a lot of recruitment at USGIF, and so we'll have a recruiting team there. And NJ Maven, so many of you are familiar with Project Maven, now Maven, that has transitioned to NGA, are big parts of that transition. That is a very focused but very powerful AI capability that Mark is certainly going to talk about. The N2W program team will be there, so if you want to understand what our new facility looks like and how it's going to be different, it's not just a building, it's a system that's going to help us advance our tradecraft and our engagement with industry and academia, similar to what's happening at Moonshot Labs today. And then finally, the IC Commercial Imagery and Geo program. So if you want to get a peek at where we're headed with commercial, not just with pixels, but with services, that's a place to go. Okay, so I'm going to end up right now with just a little bit of a peek. I don't want to reveal too much about the director's speech because that really is one of the highlights of the GEOINT Symposium. But I'm going to go through this. I'll turn it over to Mark, and then we're going to save time for questions and answers We are working on a great video now that tells the NJ story, both where we are today and where we're headed in the future. And then the director is going to talk about the year in review. And so many things have happened in the world that NGA has been a part of. We're going to look at how we've been supporting the Ukraine crisis. It's been covered a little bit in the media, but really GEOINT was one of the first ints to be able to tell the story, not just to policymakers, not just to military planners, but to the American public. Russia's narrative was that nothing was happening, they were simply just conducting exercises. But GEOINT told a different story. Because we had commercial GEOINT, we were able to tell that story to the American public and to our international partners in a way that we never had before. And because of that, we were more prepared for what was coming. So the director will talk about that. But not just warfare, although we are a combat support agency, but Hurricane Ian. So NGA responded immediately to FEMA's request to provide geospatial support to FEMA during the Hurricane Ian and recovery. We have Syria and Turkey. We have obviously China and Russia as strategic competitors. So the director is going to talk as much as he can in an open forum about how NGA contributes to national security in those areas. But he's also going to talk about his vision for functional management, and that's an area that we've talked quite a bit about. Functional management, so the director of NGA is also the functional manager for GEOINT, and that means something. That means something to the military services, that means something even to industry and academia. And that's why we have such a close partnership with USGIF, because you're in that same business. How do we establish training standards? How do we establish data standards so that we can interoperate and we can all be on the same page? So that year in review will be something not to miss. Then he's going to pivot to the importance of St. Louis and what's happening in the St. Louis area, not just from an NGA building and a facility, but what the city is doing to respond, what industry is doing. Industry is flocking to St. Louis because that is where geospatial is coming together. And then finally, the panel preceding his remarks is a look back at the past 20 years of GEOINT since the first GEOINT symposium. The director will then look at the next 20 years and kind of imagine what that might look like for us as we start to invest in new technology, develop new tradecraft to deal with the deluge of data, to embrace new systems that are coming online that give us capabilities, frankly, we've never had before, and in some ways couldn't imagine. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, because Mark and myself can talk in great detail about what that future looks like.
Thanks, Alex. This is working? Anyone else think of that commercial like 10 years ago, 15 years ago? I've fallen and I can't get up. Don't touch it. Brian says, do not touch it. We don't want the emergency personnel to show up. Hey, good morning, friends. This is so cool to be here, and how exciting it is to have GEOINT coming up again. I absolutely adore, I love the GEOINT Symposium. It's like my life energy. It combines two of my favorite things, and that's geospatial intelligence and the people that I work with in this community. And to have them all together at the same time with a little bit of food, alcohol, and parties. It's a great event to bring the technical community together, our awesome industrial base that supports NGA and supports our country, and then to bring it all together in a way that we can learn from each other and have fun while we're doing it. So I'm very excited for it. I think I've been to 10, somewhere around there. It might be 9, it might be 11. And I remember my first one and how honored I was to get selected to go to it, and sort of demanded to go every year since. If I could, they let me go. So this year I will be talking a couple of times. I'll be on the panel on Tuesday. I hope I'll be coming back from Doha sometime Monday evening. So I'll ride back in St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis, by the way. I'll ride back in St. Louis sometime Monday night, Tuesday morning, and be on the panel. And then speaking about something called The Way of AI, which is a publication that will be, I think, in your bags. We're placing is it this big, Alex? This large document. NGA always sort of debut something new at GEOINT, and this year we are debuting a document called The Way of AI, and I want to talk a little bit about it, what it is and why it's important, how it describes what the agency is trying to do with artificial intelligence moving forward, hopefully in the simplest of ways that everyone can understand what our goals are. Last year, I think the document was the software way. So there's lots of ways, it's I guess our new thing. Well, it'll probably end this year. We never do something more than 2 or 3 years in a row without the trends changing. But this is the way. And yeah, I thought about getting a Mandalorian helmet and walking out on the stage. Of course, they don't make one in my head size. Yeah. I've fallen and I can't get up. I'll say that when I need help up here. I need some. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the way of AI, sort of NGA's goals and strategy there. And again, I won't get into this. This won't be a repeat of the talk that I gave on Wednesday. But just to sort of whet the appetite, get you thinking, there's lots of discussion about artificial intelligence. There's the hype cycle that's been artificial intelligence for the past, I'll say, 7 or 8 years, somewhere in that cycle. Deep learning boom sort of happening in the 2004 through 2008 era, that really sort of kicking off with the advent of both new research and new discoveries, but more importantly, the tried and true things that we've learned about artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, now applied to sort of large-scale compute, large-scale storage, and the ability for companies to be able to make these fairly intense models and operate them solely because we can now. We're in an era where we have enough resources to be able to do it. And so NGA has preponderance of its investment and focus in a particular subdomain of artificial intelligence, and that would be applying machine learning in the domain of computer vision. And so NGA is an analytic organization. We analyze imagery of all sorts, video or still images. Not to say that we don't analyze all the other data that is either derived from that or other geospatial data, GIS data, objects, entities, vectors, tracks, dots in time and space. We absolutely apply artificial intelligence to that as well. And it's also not to say that we don't use natural language processing. NGA has several very important programs and activities where we're applying natural language processing to some of our analytic production efforts. A great example of that is like our maritime notice to mariners production. So the maritime community publishes documents. The aeronautical community publishes navigation documents, safety navigation documents. Essentially, they're PDFs that are found on the web, and we have to take all this information, process it. We use natural language processing and some cool artificial intelligence to sort of put it in a form that we can. The machine does a lot of the work for us up to the point where an analyst makes a decision whether to apply it to the database or not. So that's another great example. We have more. Matt Clare will talk about some of the cooler stuff that research is going to be doing in terms of generative AI. But the vast majority of our work with artificial intelligence NGA is trying to detect entities and objects at a level of accuracy and a level of precision, ever increasing accuracy and precision, to make those detections useful to both our analysts and sort of applying to their intelligence mission, but as well as the warfighter. So in an operational sense as well. So think about detections flowing into an analyst workflow, where maybe they're looking at a targeted geographic area. Maybe they're looking for a certain subdomain of equipment classes. Maybe they're looking for associations between those entities and objects with others. They don't need a lot of false positives. They don't need 1 million dots showing up in 100 acres of space. What they need are, good, useful, accurate detections in a timely manner. Same sort of technology, different customer set. Battlefield commanders need a similar object set. They need to be able to find adversarial entities using, like I said, the same sort of technology, but the technology, the detections are moving into a different workflow, into battle management systems, into command and control systems, and eventually weapon systems. So those are our sort of two main focus areas. We're applying a lot of different techniques. We have a lot of different vendors participating with us. NGA has invested in a treasure trove of labeled data. So that's one thing that will be unique about what NGA is doing compared to sort of commercial industry in this space. We spent a lot of time, energy, resources, both internal, our analysts, as well as external outsourced vendors to collect examples, label those examples on images of things that are important to national security. We have millions and millions of those labels. And so we invite vendors to come in with their special algorithms, build models with our labels, test and evaluate those, and we iterate. When I say we iterate continuous integration, continuous delivery, in sort of a machine learning ops environment, so it's similar concept to DevOps if you're a software practitioner, except we are constantly building new models, testing those models, tweaking those models, putting them into production, get a lot of feedback from the users then that are using these models either for an analyst sort of workflow or a combatant workflow, and we iterate and iterate and iterate. And that's sort of the stage, that's sort of where NGA is at right now. We have ever increasing user adoption in this technology. We are seeing more and more people sort of make the detections because they have a certain level of, I'll just say goodness, a certain level of accuracy and precision. And what we're seeing is analysts figuring out ways to use these detections in ways that we didn't really think that they would be used. And same with combatant commanders. So what we see over the next decade, we do see some breakthroughs. Obviously the hype cycle for large language models has sort of peaked out with ChatGPT. Everyone wants to talk about it. We really do think that will change a lot. So, you can ask ChatGPT, it'll give you an answer, it'll write a paper for you. That's really just the beginning of what's going to happen with those large language models. You're going to see vendors over the next 3 years come out with dozens and dozens of applications for that technology. Everywhere from writing code to providing cybersecurity. That technology will be applied to a lot of different areas, not just for generating text and images. Guess what? It will be used in national intelligence. It will be used at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. It will be used to enhance, it won't be hopefully generating any images. It will be used to enhance the way we do computer vision. And so 2 years ago, I asked the question at Oak Ridge National Laboratories to the world's computer vision experts, kind of what do you need? What do you need for the breakthrough? What do you need to get you from the detection being 80% right to being like 99% right? Almost every single one said, I need more labeled data. They already have millions and millions and millions of detections. I need more compute, and I need more storage. Those were the three things that they needed. That sort of a graph of improvement was just, if you throw more money at it, we'll eventually get there. We'll go from 80% this year to 81% next year, to 82% next year. Really wasn't sort of a breakthrough kind of path. I think we've seen a major shift. I think we've seen some new ideas, new technology that will be inserted into a bunch of other machine learning patterns that will change the way we do business. I think NGA will be a different place 10 years from now because of what's happened in the last 2 years in machine learning. So it's a very exciting time. And we can't wait to talk more about it. We look forward to taking your questions, talking about what we're doing today and what we think the future will look like. With that, do I entertain questions? Sure. Okay. That's okay, you guys can clap for me now.
Okay, just go ahead and lead the way and work No questions?
I kind of grew up during the 9/11 era, and we've been very focused on one area of the world for a long time. In this era of the great power competition, as we call it, has that challenged your organizations with tons and tons of data? And I think imagery has been on the news and what they're doing. The public has an inside peek into what our adversaries are doing before anybody else knows, and that's really interesting. How have you guys managed the influx of data from so many different points right now? Has that challenged your organization? And are you looking to AI to help manage the workflow? You start,
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great point. Many of you know the global war on terrorism occupied a lot of our time and attention, not just NGA, not just the DoD, but FBI and pretty much the intelligence community learned how to find an individual and track them over time and possibly even target them. Understanding network analysis. The challenge has been how to not lose those tradecraft tools. Network analysis works just as well for understanding supply chain for North Korea ICBMs as it does for finding terrorist networks. But the scope and scale of the threat that great power competition has presented really has challenged our ability to manage the data, right? So we collect a lot of data, and we have analysts who have accounts who look at that data. And over time, I think we've made pretty good improvement on being able to recall the data. So we moved from text-based remarks to structured observation management using relational databases to capture and query information. But as Mark talked about, that was an evolution, and we need a revolution. We need a revolution in the way that we can discover information, extract knowledge or data from pixels, and then turn the data into knowledge to identify patterns of activity that are happening over space and time that an analyst can't keep in their head. And I've seen 20-year analysts not see patterns that a machine discovered by doing data analytics. So I think we're making that change, but it does require time and money and training to do. And we're still in the midst of a number of crises where NGA has to support. We have to provide support for the European Command. And if you have seen the news of what's happening in Sudan, we just set up a crisis cell to look at Sudan. So the real challenge is how do we develop that future workforce with future technology and future tradecraft while we're still doing today's mission.
I feel like you're maybe getting at some of the stuff like the Maxar images on CNN, some of that, right? And so when I saw that, I thought, that's pretty cool. I think everyone in our agency thought that's pretty cool. The director on down. As long as Maxar is doing it to our adversaries, right? It's all good. No, seriously, think about it. The more that we expose, strategically, hopefully with the help of the State Department, some some coordination is always good. It doesn't mean that it will be there in the future. The more that this is democratized and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, people will do what they want when they want to do it. If they have they own the satellite, they'll do it. Elon Musk. I do what they want. Let me say something. Hopefully that's encouraging to you all. Don't be naive to think that what we do at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency isn't freaking awesome, more awesome than putting an image on CNN, because it is. And everyone should be encouraged by that, because we will keep finding that special thing and doing those special things that no one knows about, so that we will maintain an image. And maybe send it to CNN, or send it to the White House, or send it to the Pentagon, publicly released, or maybe not.
Well, I just want to tie on to that question. We have some amazing animals that we're finding, whatever that is. How do we get it to such a point that with all this data coming in, they are not getting a tsunami sent to them, that they ignore what's really important? Because there is a lot coming at them. How do we filter that? And how do we get it that it's not so much focus, but give them enough of what they need so that they're not like just tossing it out because there's so much there?
Yeah, let me start with that. It's also really awesome that our country has invested, both the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and commercial industry. It's awesome that we have invested in more sensors. It's awesome that we are going to put more satellites in space and have more sensing capability, terrestrial sensing capability. Thank goodness that we're a country that's moving forward with that, right? At a pace that's greater than our adversaries in other countries. But we have to invest in the other end of that too, right? We have to invest in the exploitation capability of that, whether it's assisting an analyst or or a tooling that will get you so far, 50% there or 80% there, that an analyst will be able to do more because of that assist and that tooling. And so, if you're a company, if you are a part of our oversight, either at the Department of Defense or the DNI, or if you happen to be congressional staff or associated with Alex, don't worry, it's going to be okay. My message to you is you got to invest in both. You can't just invest in the kit. You have to invest in the software and the people too.
Yeah, so, everything Mark said, we're living today.
Alex is in charge of congressional liaison as well.
Corporate communications essentially were storytellers. Mark is actually an excellent storyteller, so that's why we like having Mark here so often. But right, we have to tell our story to the Hill because we are in a new space. NGA is in a new environment, and if you have been to GEOINT's past, we've talked a little bit about how we need to change to stay relevant. And so I can tell you, in the past 12 years that I've been at NGA, in full disclosure, I'm a retired Air Force intelligence officer. Most of my career was doing all source analysis. So I took for granted the fact that there were imagery analysts looking at pixels and telling me what was happening. My job was to weave together all of the different intelligence that we got to tell a story. The world has changed dramatically since then. Really, the data comes together on its own. I used to pride myself at reading a lot, seeing patterns and telling stories. The computers can do that far better than most of us can today, which means we have to evolve and do a higher order work that requires a human brain. Mark could talk a lot about what grade level these AI tools are going to get to, but they're never going to have a PhD in intelligence analysis, ever. So today we have computer vision tools that are running against imagery over wide areas and identifying military order of battle. That isn't rocket science. That's fairly rudimentary if you understand how machine learning works. We also have auto-reporting tools that basically take that observation and format it in text and put it into Sedalian, our database. So that's happened, I think, over 1 million times now on some of our very simple, very basic accounts. So that's work that people aren't going to have to do. Now we need QA, QC to make sure that what's coming out is accurate or accurate enough for the warfighter. But increasingly, the combatant commanders are telling us, we don't want to wait for 100% perfection. We are willing to tolerate a lower level of accuracy in order to remain timely, right? Because most of the threats these days are mobile and quick and getting quicker. So hypersonic vehicles, for example, we aren't ever going to get the intel collection and analysis cycle is not going to keep up to today's threats. So we have to automate the things we can automate. Then we have to move our analysts to doing the higher order work. And then we need to give them the tools to be able to do that. So you talked about the pile of imagery that is sitting, waiting for an analyst to look at it. That is only getting worse. Now, I will say, we still want that in the library because we do two things. We do indications and warning and monitoring activities. But we also do investigative research. So if an event happens, we can go back and understand it. This has been in the press, but many of you are aware of the Chinese balloons that became a very high interest item for the president and the American people. We had to backtrack. We didn't see them when they launched from China. But we have the ability to piece together information that was in the library to understand the full range of that activity. So that now we can be aware of that happening again. So we want data in the library in the event that we need to go back and look at it. But also increasingly those tools, the computer vision, the auto reporting, the alerting. I had analysts who put a watch box around an area and programmed an algorithm to alert them when a certain series of activities happen. Now they don't have to look at that area every day. They just get an alert and then they can go look at the imagery. So those are the types of things. Those are today things. But really, DDI and research are looking at how are we going to upscale that so that that's how we work every day, all at once.
You mentioned perfect, they want that good enough.
Now, they do want perfect, but they say they're not willing to wait for it.
Facts.
I have to look, and maybe Rhonda can help me. I mean, Mark Chatelain is a very conversant in this. He's our CIO, so he'll certainly touch on this, on cloud storage and edge node and putting the data where it's needed. The other thing, to earlier question, the global war on terrorism was fairly regional. And we are now thinking about planning military operations against adversaries if we're not going to make it easy for us to use our strengths, to use our remote sensing capability, to use our data communication. So we're having to think through how do we build in resiliency on top of everything else we're doing.
Yeah, there'll be somebody there to talk to. You can turn around and talk to Kevin Hoy if you want right now.
My question pertains to acquisition and procurement. So a lot of the innovation that we are seeing stems from non-traditional defense contractors, small businesses who have not historically been a part of our defense industrial base. So to what extent are we leveraging alternative acquisition vehicles to engage with these innovators and to essentially accelerate their technology to the warfighter more quickly?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's an enduring pursuit. I think we recognized that, at least a decade ago, how important it was to invite those companies in. It still remains difficult. Christy and I worked on this for many years. We finally got to the point where we were able to see and visit with a lot of these companies. And so that was really healthy, I think, for the government side to understand what was happening out there. There are vehicles, contract vehicles, ways, there are ways to bring small companies in faster than a traditional contract. And so, the sort of pat answer is, you talk to our small business office, and I think we flashed, did you flash or, no, but, yeah, of course you did flash, but, yeah. So that will be, that's always a point, right, of entry for most small, philosophically. One of the ways that we encourage innovative small businesses to participate is to do things like this. Come here, network with people that already have contracts. So some of these companies invest in years, right? 2 or 3 years to sort of win a contract, and the sort of bureaucracy and structure it takes to do that. And a small innovative business can become a sub to one of those by the decision, that takes 5 minutes, right? And so that's the sort of different paces here of the getting a contract with the government sort of versus being part of a team. So I'd recommend that to you too. There are lots of ways. Help me out, guys. We have a document that has like an entire page in the back of the tech focus areas. That away, Christy. Yep. If you don't have that, you can Google that. It's online. It's on NGA's web, but you can type in NGA tech focus areas. And what's really cool about that document, it has sort of a summary of all the technology NGA is interested in, and then it has a page on who to contact, how to get started, and to go from there.
Yeah, a shameless plug. So at the booth, we will have the small business office, and we'll have the industry engagement team. So Tim Clayton will be one of the panelists. He's on our acquisition team. And then Rick Meilenbeck, who's the head of our industry engagement. We have an entire process by which small companies can come in and just talk to us about what you can do for us and understand what we need. You can also get that on www.nj.mil and there's a tab that says working with us, and then there's a drop down for industry. So a lot of really good information on how to work with us. And if you don't know that, that is probably the best way to get an audience with the folks who are looking for tech solutions that you might be able to offer.
Sorry, I think we have time for one last question. I don't want to pick you.
The gentleman with the microphone.
We can do 2 quicks.
All
Yeah.
right, 2 lightning rounds.
Yeah, real quick. So related to what she just asked, a couple of quick items. Are you looking at more OTA, CSO vehicles? And secondly, just related to that, are there potential synergies with the OSP radar program that might be shaped? So just
Yeah, I'll say we're always, OTAs are easier for many cases. Research does more OTAs than anyone in the agency. The acquisition culture at NGA, though, the big acquisition culture at NGA is still the big acquisition culture. If it's a big program, it's a big acquisition, it will take 18 months. It will go through the wickets. It will, all of that. But on the smaller side, research especially, you guys know where to go find these things. You know where they're published, hopefully, and how to get involved. Go forth and do. Sir?
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't make this comment. Both of you have mentioned cooperation with industry and academia. You said nothing about the federal civil partnerships that existed for more than 50 years. Next year is the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Civil Applications Committee. And there are at least 15 federal civil agencies, all with a large number of cleared scientists and analysts who use data not only provided by you, but an even larger fleet of sensors that are operated by the federal civil community, including the one sensor that has the greatest use on Earth, Landsat. So we are proud to partner with you. We've been doing this for a long time, but don't forget us, please.
Yes, sir. That's a good plug. We will not forget you. I will say, even though we're kind of in this, is this a commercial environment? What do you call this? Yeah? Well, no, I meant like, sort of bringing in commercial partners, whatever. Some of the best work in the government is done by government. It is, right? It's a different sort of motivation. Our national labs, stuff that they're doing, the other agencies do. Some of the best work in government is done by government. And so there you go, sir.
Great, let's give them a big round of applause. That was terrific. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of you for the great audience. Again, thank you to Carasoft and Lacey for helping us to host this event. Go back and have a second round of breakfast. There's still plenty of food. If you haven't done your social media posting, there's a nice place in the back to take a selfie or to have one of our staff take your picture. And we'll see you at GEOINT. Thank you.